In New York, a lot is riding on Eli Manning in 2016 after the G-Men have missed the playoffs for the past 4 seasons. Manning is entering his 13th season at age 35, but Giants head coach Ben McAdoo said after Monday's practice that Eli is not slowing down and, quote, he's getting better, Max Kellerman. Do you agree with new head coach Ben McAdoo?
I do, and I think Eli Manning has become an extremely underrated quarterback. You heard me right, underrated. Now, listen. When he's playing in Gilbride's offense, complicated offense, windy Giant Stadium before the new Giant Stadium. It's better now, but at the time, bad conditions. Complicated offense, bad conditions, and he has a gunslinger mentality. He's willing to take risks. You're going to throw some interceptions. That's happened. We all know that. But McAdoo, under like a West Coast-style offense, he looked much better last year. He has receivers now who can run routes, especially Sterling. They just drafted, and obviously Odell Beckham Jr. He has the weapons. He has the system. Giant Stadium conditions are much better nowadays. And let me just say this about Eli, for those who think I'm overrating him somehow. What's the best ability?
Availability.
Availability. If I were to tell you you're going to use the #1 overall pick on a guy who's starting in Week 11 of 2004, that's when he took over the job from Kurt Warner, hasn't missed a start and has done the following. So he's NFL rank over that time. Over Eli's career, his NFL rank. #1 in games. There it is. #5 in wins. 4 in passing yards. 4 in passing TDs. Ignore that interception stat. Super Bowl wins, tied for first. But how do you like this? Super Bowl MVPs. He's played in the league the whole time with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Ben Roethlisberger. Super Bowl MVPs first. You know how many guys won 2 Super Bowl MVPs or more in the history of the NFL? Bradshaw, Bart Starr, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and Eli Manning. 4th quarter touchdown passes over his career. First. And you get 2 Super Bowl wins? Would you spend the #1 overall pick on that? I would. Do I believe he's set up? Is his ability changed? No. But is he set up for more success in this offense, in this stadium, with these receivers? Yes, he is, Stephen A.
That was very impressive, Sal.
Very impressive. Nice. Sounds beautiful. Particularly when you remember the fact that he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. We can't take anything away from him. And if you know Eli, if you've spoken to him, if you've interviewed him, if you've met him, he's an incredibly nice and classy young man. I'm very fond of Eli Manning. But to say that he is underrated is hogwash. That's nonsense. And I'm going to call you on that. And here's why. You can't be underrated when you are an individual that has led the league in interceptions on 3 separate occasions. You can't be called underrated when you look at the New York Giants. And yes, we have those 2 Super Bowl victories. Let's go over the last 8 years or so, or 7 years or so, since 2009.
Now let's skip it.
Nope. 8-8, 10-6, 9-7, 9-7, 7-9, 6-10, 6-10. 3 consecutive losing seasons, 4 consecutive years they've missed the playoffs, 6 of the last 7 years they've missed the playoffs. These are the New York Giants. You've made the playoffs 1 time since 2009. The reason why we let that go is because they won the Super Bowl the 1 year they did make the playoffs. But they haven't made the playoffs 4 years since.
It's on Jerry Reese and Tom Coughlin. That's on Reese and Coughlin. That's why Coughlin's gone.
Well, let me say this. You could say that's on Reese and Coughlin. And to some degree, you're right, because Reese needs to get, I mean, it's taken them this long, and they still don't have a running game. Okay? We understand that. Okay? Which puts more pressure on Eli Manning. Obviously, the offensive line, there were times throughout these last several years where they needed to shore it up. That wasn't the case. And then now the defense fell off because last year they were god-awful, which is why they drafted Eli Apple, who I think is going to be pretty damn good. Even though the experts tell us that he was picked too high at #10 overall.
They needed help in the secondary. Yeah.
They needed help in the secondary, and they were questioning that whether or not he was taken too high. I think Eli Apple is going to be very, very good. It's just how soon is he going to be able to pull that off? That remains to be seen. I didn't realize they were going to pay $200 million in the offseason. The fact that they did that is going to help.
You brought up interceptions.
Right.
You brought up interceptions.
Right.
Now, I used to work with Bob Papa doing the fights.
Okay.
Bob Papa, of course, is the radio announcer for the Giants, and he has, you know, he watches coach film and all this kind of stuff. And I would come in, we'd be doing a fight, and I'd be apoplectic. He threw another 3 interceptions, blah, blah. And Bob Papa, he's not making he's not an apologist for Eli. He's like, look, if you watch the film and you break it down, That's a receiver blowing
no.
Look,
Ruben
Eli
Randall, hold on.
Eli
Ruben
takes
Randall
risks.
was famous for that.
Yeah, of course.
Ruben Randall was running bad routes. He was running bad routes, and not only that, sometimes he was running the wrong route.
But Eli is the type of guy who takes risks. So he throws interceptions, but he also wins Super Bowls when others wouldn't. By the way, Nate Silver, forget about the fact that he went on the road, forget beating Brady twice, and beat Brett Favre at Lambeau in the NFC Championship game, and beat Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau in the playoffs, and Romo at Dallas. I mean, he went on the road and beat all those guys. Nate Silver, 538.com, everyone knows Nate Silver, did about last year at some point, who's the most clutch player in quarterback in the history of the NFL Super Bowl era? The most clutch. Eli won by such a large margin, he thought his methodology something must be wrong. Let me use a different methodology. That time it was very close. Joe Montana came in second, Eli Manning first. So on top of everything else, in terms of the most sophisticated metrics, he's also the most clutch quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Let me say
in the postseason.
I respect the hell out of Nate Silver. He has a job that I wouldn't mind having because he gets to talk politics, and I wish some people would allow me to do so. Having said all of that, let's be clear. I don't give a damn about his numbers about football.
You care about Super Bowls? Two.
No, listen,
That's the number, two.
I said that. I'm a New Yorker, and I'm proud of Eli. What I'm saying is addressing your point about the word underrated.
Yes.
I am saying to you that's going too far. I cannot say somebody's underrated when you've missed the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years. If you're going to give the man credit for availability. Hold on. I'll let you speak. You sit up there and you gave him, you brought up the fact that he hasn't missed a game since midway through 2004. That means 6 of the last 7 years when they've missed the playoffs, he's been your quarterback behind center every single game. You cannot sit there and point to Tom Coughlin and point to Jerry Reese and don't point to Eli Manning when you missed the playoffs 6 times in 7 years if you say overrated. Now, if you tell me that he can't play, I'm going to call you a liar. If you tell me that you wouldn't want Eli Manning as your quarterback, I'm going to call you a liar. If you tell me that you can't rely on him in the clutch, I'm going to call you a liar. If you tell me he can't play, I'm going to call you a liar. But don't tell me he's underrated when 6 times in the last 7 years he was home on his couch watching the playoffs like me and you.
I don't know if you heard, but
can't do
I
that.
said the first over his career, the most fourth quarter touchdowns.
I understand that.
Thrown. The most. So it's a team game. I'll say this. There are players at the quarterback position, many, who can do more with less than Eli. For instance, his brother could take an inferior team, could drag them to the playoffs, maybe even, advance in the playoffs. He could do more with less.
Yep.
Eli's not the type of guy who's going to take an inferior team farther than they should go.
Okay.
But if you put him on a good enough team, on a playoff caliber team, he can win you a Super Bowl. Now, the ultimate is a Tom Brady type who can not only maybe take a lesser team there, but also win
I'm
there.
Trying to help
That's
you.
the uppermost
I'm trying to help you.
Eli's not listening. That. He beat Brady twice in the Super Bowl.
Somebody trying to help you. You're making the point that we all know. Eli Manning can play, and you wouldn't mind having one ability. No. You're not underrating the ability.
The importance of what he does.
You're accurately analyzing the results. And at the end of the day, your points that you are making, as valid as they are,
Good. End of conversation. Molly, go to break.
Don't equate to him being underrated. He's not underrated.
Coming
He's right where he should be.
Fine, you'll get last word.
Shall we? Did you guys hear about Lily King? She won gold last night in and out of the pool. I will explain. We will react when we come back.